Radio Live. With the latest from News Hub, Aroha Hathaway.
Kia ora, good evening. In this News Hub update, an experienced aviation security officer has turned whistleblower, claiming there are serious safety issues at this country's border. The officer says dangerous items are slipping through because of pressure on workers. Meantime, the unions representing aviation security workers have condemned the possible lockout of employees from 5 airports during a planned strike later this month. Medical experts are assessing a man after his arrest in South Auckland following a bomb scare. An elderly man's dead after a house in North Canterbury in which his wife managed to escape unharmed. Fog restrictions have finally been lifted at Auckland Airport. The fog's seen about 150 flights cancelled or delayed today, and air travellers are advised to check flight information. Family, friends and fellow rugby league players are paying tribute to a man badly beaten after a party in Lower Hutt at the weekend who's died in hospital. A woman accused of murdering a 4-year-old girl in Auckland can now be identified as her mother. 3 people arrested following the country's biggest ever meth bust have pleaded not guilty to importing the drug, and Hamilton Zoo's confirmed the birth of its 7th southern white rhinoceros calf. It's 28 to 8.
News Hub on Radio Live with the Bridgestone Tyre Centre, 200 St Asaph Street, for tyres and wheel alignments. Now sport.
All eyes turn to Wales as the team tries to upset Portugal in the first of the Euro Football Champs semi-finals in the morning. Portugal's yet to win a game in regulation time. And Liam Messham's on the bench for the Chiefs to play the Reds on Friday, while Sam Cane moves to number 8. Aaron Cruden comes in at first 5 ahead of Stephen Donald. More inside 30 as the news happens from News Hub.
News Hub Sport on Radio Live with Harcourt's Grenadier REAA 2008, Canterbury's largest and most trusted team.
For tyres in the city, the Bridgestone Tyre Centre at 200 St Asaph Street is your one-stop shop. Tyres for all makes and models and all budgets. It's the bright red building at 200 St Asaph Street. That's between Manchester and Colombo. Drop in any time. Open Saturday mornings, no appointment necessary.
Air New Zealand's 24-hour Aussie sale is on now with great deals between Christchurch and Sydney. Fly seat from just $149 one way. Sale ends midnight tonight. Card payment fee, travel periods and conditions apply. Book now at airnz.co.nz.
Radio Live, Canterbury, 99.3 FM. Weather.
For the top half of the North Island, areas of cloud or fog turning to rain, and then heavy falls for the rest of the North Island, some patchy rain. For the top of the South Island, fine, and then some rain moves in. For the lower South Island, the opposite, rain, which is gradually clearing. Radio Live Christchurch, weather mostly fine, increasing cloud, light winds into the low of 1. Looking ahead, often cloudy with some fine breaks in the afternoon and a high of 11.
You're listening to the Paul Henry Highlights, where we'll catch up on what you missed from this morning's show, or you can listen again to this morning's fun and games. Paul Henry on Radio Live, on TV3 and online.
You're the money teacher this morning, of course, Tony. Money talk time. Hey, and I see the dollar.
Yes.
It's gone up again. Is this Brexit?
Against the pound, yeah. This is very much the Brexit effect. Just when it seemed the financial markets had stopped being, panicking about Brexit and what is going to happen, suddenly it seems to be, as they say, risk on again. This is because the Governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, came out this morning saying that he believes that all the concerns he had about what might happen, those fears are starting to, as he put it, crystallise. He said that he's going to do all he can to make sure the British banks keep lending to each other. He doesn't want a repeat of what happened in 2008 when once the banks get nervous about how the others are, everybody stops lending and the credit markets freeze up. That hurts homeowners, hurts businesses. One thing to watch, we've talked so much about the share market, but there's something really interesting going on in the UK right now, and it's in the commercial property sector. As people pull money out of the UK, they look to sell assets. Investors have been pulling out of some of these big commercial property funds that invest in commercial properties, particularly in London and all over the UK. There's been so many people wanting to pull their money out that 3 of those big funds, who between them manage around £9 billion worth of properties, have said, right, you can't pull your money out until further notice. The reason being that they'd run out of cash, and obviously to let any more people pull money out, they'd have to start selling commercial properties. Now, you can't just sell a commercial property by lunchtime and pay out the investors. The concern is it starts to, it could potentially have a flow-on effect through the whole market.
And this guy, Mark Carney, the Canadian, of course, who's governor of the Reserve Bank, do they have this? Is that the same sort of setup as it is here? They're totally independent of...
And he has In fact, it was
the politicians.
He was issuing his financial stability report, and of course, just like the Reserve Bank here, they keep a very close eye on the banks. So Mark Carney just stepping in there, and the effect there. Almost 55 pence. Curiously, though, as part of this kind of flight to safety, investors pulling their money out of the UK, they're putting it into, of course, the old US dollar and gold as safe havens. We've actually dipped a little bit against the US dollar this morning.
Hey, we've got to be quick, but the weird thing is, electricity prices, all going on about housing prices going up, electricity's going down.
Electricity Authority put out its annual report yesterday, and for the first time in 15 years, the average unit cost for electricity fell by around 1.5%. Now, the first time in 15 years, there's a couple of reasons for that. Frankly, more competition. There's now 31 different electricity brands, 20 different companies, more smaller companies coming into the market, and frankly, we're switching more. I think over 350,000 residential customers switched companies last year. And of course, the authority has that website, whatsmynumber.org.nz. If you go on there, you can shop around.
So it all comes down the same pipe and into your home. It's just whoever's the broker, effectively, isn't it?
There's all these different things that are happening. We've got more pre-plans. We've got more of the sort of selling, where you can basically get your internet and your electricity all in one package. And I think people are just being aware, hey, if I shop around, it's a little bit like, say, interest rates or term deposits, even go to your own provider and say, well, look, here's what the competition's offering me. What can you do?
It'd be good to get something up on our website on that.
We're going to put a link to the whatsmynumber.org.nz website. Really worth having a look at that.
Good on you. I don't care what Jim says. I think you're great.
I still like Jim.
Good on you. Thanks, Tony.
This is the Paul Henry Highlights.
The first two sentences have been handed down to mobile truck shops under new laws protecting vulnerable consumers. The companies Better Life and Goodring failed to provide borrowers with adequate information and were fined tens of thousands of dollars. Now, there are around 30 traders operating throughout the country, and the Commerce Commission is cracking down on them. Commerce and Consumer Affairs Minister Paul Goldsmith joins me now. Thanks for joining us. All of these operators dodgy?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. What we're focused on is unscrupulous mobile truck operators and payday lenders as well. And, what we're concerned about is that many families can get themselves into a terrible tangle through debt and poor quality arrangements and purchasing. And so what we're trying to do with the law is ensure that those lenders tell them exactly what they're going to be up for in the costs over time. So
it's more the fact that they're not being upfront about what's going to happen to them as opposed to charging usurious interest rates.
Yeah, I mean, one of the examples I came across early last year was an iPhone 5, which is about $800 worth, advertised for $59 a week for 100 weeks. And, hopefully your maths is good enough to work out that's not a good deal. And we passed a law which has a responsible lending code as part of it, which says, if you're going to have installments like that, you need to outline the total cost, so $5,900, and that will make a difference, and hopefully fewer people will be inclined to think it's a good deal. But from my point of view as minister, of course, you can pass all the laws that you like, but they're only any good if they're properly enforced. And so that's why it's important that the Commerce Commission, which is the one that enforces these laws, is active out there holding people to account.
I was reading the report, Paul Goldsmith, and it said that some of the interest rates were between 6%, which is okay, and 19%. But then they got into penalty rates, which could, on top of the existing interest rate, which could go up to 28%.
Yeah. Oh, they can be very expensive. And so,
but are they any worse than the credit card companies?
Oh, look, interest rates can be very high over the short term, but the main thing is that people know what they're getting and it's properly explained. And what we saw was some very, very shoddy practices where people weren't explaining what the fees were and what the costs were, and just trapping people in a cycle which just went down and down, and there was no way out. And so the law's now quite explicit about explaining to people before you lend to them what the costs are, and but the people have got to be held to account for that, and so I'm very pleased to see the Commerce Commission out there enforcing that. And of course, one of the things that we did in the budget a month ago was, for the first time in a decade, significantly increase the funding for the Commerce Commission to do precisely this kind of work.
Yeah, well, that was, going to say, that was a long time coming, but good on it happening. If people think they have been ripped off or they're worried about the situation they're in, who do they go to?
Well, if they've got a serious complaint, they go to the Commerce Commission, which is, it's got a good, clear website and easy to get in contact with. Also, there's the local community advice bureaus can also point you in the right direction.
All right, hey, thank you so much, Paul Goldsmith, Commerce and Consumer Affairs Minister. And there we have it. I mean, the interesting thing about this is that in this Commerce Commission report, they identified 32 operators throughout the country. 32. And yet they still need... Ingrid and Jim, they still needed to have this whole sort of thing going. They had to bring in these special laws that tackle 32 operators.
Yeah.
Big business, though.
It's frightening. Well, it's funny. I know a guy. Well, I went to the gym with a guy. And he was arguing, well, where else are these people going to get credit? And he was claiming that he was on the lower end of the spectrum and it wasn't quite as usurious. But he was saying, is it any different if you go to any of the big chain stores and whatever, your Harvey Normans and stuff? You can get into expensive credit, some of those too.
Yeah, not credit with the interest that these blokes are charging.
But it's declaring. It's declaration, isn't it?
Your Nights with Karen Hay and friends.
If you've been listening to the show over the last week on Friday, we've been speaking to John, who was living out in the bush in a tent. Andrew and his wife Charlene rang this show and said, we're going to go and get him.
I've got my own room, own little heater, fire going, having a roast dinners, and couldn't ask for anything better. These people actually went out of their way, and I just can't believe these two have done this.
Connect, engage, share. Your Nights from 8 p.m. with Karen Hay on Radio Live.
Can you believe this is a Casio Grand Hybrid piano? For free nationwide delivery, check out pianotraders.co.nz.
Looking to build? Find out why Homes by Maxim is building a reputation as the friendliest, most reliable and inspirational design and build company in Canterbury. With over 25 years experience, a full in-house architectural design team and the very best home and land options, there's never been a better time to build with Homes by Maxim. Visit homesbymaxim.co.nz or call 943 0799 to get started.
Homes by Maxim, bring your new home to life.
Ryford Trailers, the winner's choice, made right here in Christchurch since 1975. 43,000 hard-working examples out there so far. 10-year commercial or 20-year private, use not abuse structural fatigue warranty. Hot dip gal, wall painted finish, biggest range, biggest warranty, best resale value. Over 39 years of doing it right. Don't settle for less, buy the best. Ryford Trailers, Rutherford Street, Wilston, 0800 2 Bryford and online at bryford.co.nz.
Urban Record World Tour. Keith Urban, Saturday, December 3 at Westpac Stadium, Wellington, with Carrie Underwood. One show only. Get your tickets now at Ticketek. Keith Urban with Carrie Underwood, Record World Tour.
The Casio Grand Hybrid Piano from Piano Traders. A new digital piano with real piano action. No strings, so no tuning costs. Piano-styled cases. And you can use headphones. For free nationwide delivery to your door, pianotraders.co.nz.
Canterbury
99.3, 89.9 FM.
Radio Live. This is the Paul Henry Highlights.
Lotto tonight. Well, the jackpot, it's up to $34 million. If it doesn't all go tonight, it has to be won on Saturday. How likely are you to be lucky? Well, Auckland University statistics professor Russell Miller joins me now. Now, Russell, you verified this. You need to spend over $46 million to guarantee you get those numbers right.
Yeah, that's right, because you've got a 1 in 38 million or so chance of winning. You've got to buy 38 million Powerball jackpot tickets at $1.20 a pop, which comes out to $46 million.
Hey, but even then, someone else could just fluke the numbers and you're halving it.
And then exactly. Now, you're also going to win everything. You're going to win Division 1, Division 2, all that stuff as well.
Hey, is there such a thing, I mean, I know not statistically, as lucky numbers? I mean, numbers that come up more often than others.
The official Lotto website has all the results from all the draws, and I was busy analysing those yesterday, and basically, no. There's a lot of variation. There's cold numbers, hot numbers at 18 and 19 are hot, but I've run...
What do you mean hot?
They've come out more than the average would, more than the average amount. But I've done all the numbers crunching, and it's just statistical, it's just randomness.
You call them hot, someone sitting at home is going to call them lucky, aren't they?
That's it. But lucky's just randomness, isn't it?
See, I know, I've heard of a guy, there's a guy in Wellington, really good guy, worked at the soup kitchen there. He won it twice. I mean, that must be
Won what
staggering.
twice?
Lotto.
Division 1?
I think so, yeah.
Well, he's lucky. Yeah. Very lucky.
Because, your odds, so the odds are what, 1 in 38,383,000?
That's for the Powerball jackpot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the biggie. And then, so for the next one down, if you just want to...
It's 1 in 3.8 million for just the regular Lotto Division 1.
So what would be, statistically, what would be a good strategy? I mean, is there such a thing as a good statistical strategy?
My view is you can't beat the numbers. All the numbers are going to be the same. Some people think you can because they've got different signage and stuff on them, but I think they're all different. And so they're all equal. So I think you can't beat the numbers. Try and make sure you're not sharing your prize with many people. So don't choose obvious combinations. Don't choose those hot numbers and those cold numbers. You're probably just better off getting a lucky dip, random numbers.
Because Lotto's a bit like the casino. It's like the pokey machines. The house is always going to win.
And, in the case of Lotto, it's probably, I dare say worse, but the return is way lower with Lotto than going to the casino. It's so 53%.
So they take the lion's share. And I suppose the thing is it all goes to charity and that
A lot of it. Some goes to tax, though. The government does pretty well.
Why do people play then, do you think?
Well, because you have a chance of winning $34 million with an investment of $5 or so, you know. So,
do you buy Lotto tickets?
I haven't bought one for 10 years or so, but after this morning I might just go out and...
What a disgrace you are to the world of statisticians.
Well, we're not totally boring, but it's all about having fun. And that's what it should be about, not trying to make money, but having fun.
But okay, so in terms of what people bet on, do we know that what are the favoured numbers?
I couldn't find that information. No, I couldn't find that.
They won't tell you.
But I found websites which generated numbers for you. They claim to have some secret method of generating the winning numbers.
You see those ads all the time, don't they? I mean, is that just hokum, isn't it?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, in my opinion, yes.
Because there is no way. I mean, it's random.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't imagine. You see how they get vigorously, tumbled around that tumble. I can't imagine that there's any sort of. It's purely random.
If you do win tonight, if you break your 10-year habit of not, have you ever worked out how much money you've saved just by not buying those 10 years of tickets? It might be interesting.
Even the minimal amount, you're saving several $100s a year.
Yeah.
We're not playing.
You can take us all out for breakfast afterwards. Obviously, you're sitting on all this cash.
When do you finish?
All right, right on 9 o'clock. But if you win tonight, I take it you won't be like Jim. You'll be a sharing person, will you?
You're much maligning me incorrectly.
Oh, sorry. Jim has only promised not to share with me. That's all. He's happy. The rest...
Well, I'll be more popular than Jim.
The rest of you watching out there, anyone watching the show, if Jim wins tonight, you're in the money. I'm sounding like an ad now. All right, so you'll be rushing off. You're actually going to buy a ticket?
I think I will. I'll let you know what I win.
Either way, we want to hear from you, Russell Miller, because Russell Miller is Auckland University's statistics professor, and as I say, he's been all over these numbers and all those facts for us. So just a reminder, you want to be guaranteed to win $46 million you have to spend, and you can only win 34. Doesn't quite make sense.
This is the Paul Henry Highlights.
Well, as you know, the Civil Aviation Authority is considering a lockout after aviation security workers threatened strike action. For more on this, the Civil Aviation Authority's John Kay joins me now. Good morning, Mr. Kay.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
All right. Is this accurate, this was statement from the union? You have threatened a lockout?
We have indeed issued lockout notices. That is a consequence of CAA, the Aviation Security Service, being an essential service. So we have 14 days to resolve the dispute to prevent any of this from occurring.
Hey, so let's just get this right. Your solution to them threatening to not be there and disrupt your service is to actually lock them out of the airports?
In part, we're looking at activating our contingency plan. Putting it bluntly, that means bringing in people from elsewhere to do the work that those workers would otherwise be doing. Our intention being to minimise the disruption to the travelling public and to continue assuring the security of aviation services.
If you can do it without them, do you actually need those workers?
The short answer is yes, we do, Mark. Those guys do a very valuable job. They do an extremely good job. They have a very strong view about the nature of the offer we've made to them so far. I guess it's fair to say we have an equally strong view about the value of that offer.
On that offer, it's been reported that basically it's going to amount to a couple of bucks a week.
Yeah, that's I think a little mischievous. The maths is a little bit different to that. The offer is relatively complex. It involves buying out some existing allowances, for which there are cash injections to their baseline salary, plus a one-off cash payment on the table. And following that, annualised pay increases of 1.5% and 2%.
See, the other thing is this has been going on for 3 years.
We've been in negotiation with the PSA and ETU for the last 12 months on bargaining. There was an agreement in place prior to that. It expired in June last year. So we've been going for a year. We have 3 unions involved. The third union settled, Nupe, essentially around the same terms and conditions that we're offering to the PSA and ETU.
Does this sort of, for you, I mean, for me, I look at this, it sort of sounds a bit like 1951, talks of strikes and lockouts and, it's us and them.
It's a disappointing place to get to. I think it's fair to say that everyone is frustrated on both sides of the table, as it were, here. There are several key things to remember, though. This is an essential service, so there are quite strict rules around how strike notices can be served. And if we're to provide a continuity of service and to try and bring this issue to a head and resolve it quickly, we have some relatively limited tools that we can deploy. So we're in receipt of a strike notice. We will do what we need to do in order to try and bring the issue to resolution, and we will try and do what we can to minimise disruption to the travelling public and maintain their security.
Do you think it's inflammatory to send a lockout notice or warning of a lockout notice at this stage?
If I was on that side of the table, that's precisely how I'd perceive it. On the other side of the table, we have to put in place our contingency plans, and frankly, strike notice is equally inflammatory.
Would a contingency plan include using the police?
The contingency plan is being worked through in some detail, so I don't want to go into that just yet. There are a lot of negotiations going on around that, but it would involve using people from elsewhere in the state sector, yes.
The Prime Minister said yesterday you need to use people who are familiar with scanning equipment, etc., so maybe military security, and I come back to possibly police as well.
There's a number of organisations we can look to, and we're currently having discussions with.
How confident
I'd rather not go into that.
How confident are you that will not come to that you will be able to nut out some agreement with these workers?
What I can say is we're going into compulsory mediation next week. We're going into that with an open mind. We are very committed to trying to bring this to resolution so that strike action doesn't need to eventuate. And certainly so we don't have to eventuate any of our contingency plans. That's not where we want to go.
Just finally,
all I can say.
Finally, do you believe they're overpaid?
I think they're well and fairly remunerated for what they do, and I think the offer on the table is fair and reasonable.
And has management had a pay rise in aviation security in the last year?
I can tell you that me as the acting CE has not had a pay rise in the last year. I can't speak for all of my management colleagues. I'm unaware of that.
Look, John Kay, appreciate your time this morning. John Kay is the acting CEO for the Civil Aviation Authority.
What toys did you break over the summer holidays? I tore the boat cover. I broke the zip on the caravan awning again. The wife's got me sleeping on the couch because I tore the seat covers on the jet ski. Just trying to back it into the garage. I swear there was enough room.
Oh, mate! Go see Agnew Brothers. They can sort all those problems and more. They even install seat heaters to keep your bum warm.
Don't be weird, Greg.
For all your repairs and upholstery needs, and the official bottom warmers of Canterbury, go to agnewbrothers.co.nz.
Looking to build? Find out why Homes by Maxim is building a reputation as the friendliest, most reliable and inspirational design and build company in Canterbury. With over 25 years experience, a full in-house architectural design team and the very best home and land options, there's never been a better time to build with Homes by Maxim. Visit homesbymaxim.co.nz or call 943 0799 to get started.
Homes by Maxim, bring your new home to life.
Bryford Trailers, the winner's choice, made right here in Christchurch since 1975. 43,000 hard-working examples out there so far. 10-year commercial or 20-year private, use not abuse, structural fatigue warranty. Hot dip gal, wall painted finish, biggest range, biggest warranty, best resale value. Over 39 years of doing it right. Don't settle for less, buy the best. Bryford Trailers, Rutherford Street, Woolston, 0800 2 Bryford and online at bryford.co.nz.
Urban Ripcord World Tour. Keith December 3 at Westpac Stadium, Wellington, with Carrie Underwood. One show only. Get your tickets now at Ticketek. Keith Urban with Carrie Underwood. Record World Tour.
Canterbury
99.3, 89.9 FM.
Radio Live. This is the Paul Henry Highlights.
All right, feeling rich this morning. If you're a property owner, you've got every reason to. House values haven't risen this fast since 2004, up more than 5% over the past 3 months. So what's the answer to stopping the surge, and should we actually be trying? Joining me now is BNZ Chief Economist Tony Alexander. G'day, Tony.
G'day, Mark.
Boy, oh boy, I mean, were you surprised? I mean, we keep thinking somehow it's got to stop.
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
No, it's not going to stop for a while. And one thing people need to realise is this is a repricing of the entire housing stock for New Zealand to reflect the fact that interest rates are going to be sitting at a far lower level in coming decades than has been the case for the past 30 years or so. And what that means is one of the key drivers of this market is not so much speculative buy and sell people. It's people who have been preparing for retirement for the past 25 years, built up some savings. They're only going to get 3%, so they're buying houses instead.
But the way John Key was talking yesterday, he was saying to the Reserve Bank, basically get on to the investors and the speculators to try and sort of shorten up, I suppose, on the, the demand.
Well, most definitely. And the problem for the Reserve Bank is that they want to lower interest rates because inflation's only 0.4%, but they want to raise interest rates because that's a way of slowing down the housing market. They can't raise interest rates, so they need to use what we call these macro-prudential credit supply, credit control tools. And
what's that in English?
In English, it means they are now shifting from controlling demand for credit by changing our mortgage rates to rules affecting the credit which the banks can supply. This is going back to pre-1984, 1985 environment. And so this is relatively new for the Reserve Bank, and they want to take it relatively slowly. The trouble is the market's moving away from them more rapidly than they can act. So, yeah, they definitely need to do something like today.
So you'd expect to see some new rules in place, both for the banks and in terms of how what would affect it? If I went up to see the bank, it'd be a rule affecting me and my ability to borrow, or restrictions? How would it work?
Yeah. Well, the easiest thing would simply be for, say, if you're an investor in Auckland at the moment, you need 30% deposit, take that to 50%. If that doesn't slow the market down, take it to 75%.
But then you might argue only the wealthy or the people with a lot of money behind them can then get into the market.
Previously the case when interest rates would be used to slow the market as well. If you didn't need to borrow, you could keep buying.
Now, Labor have a cunning plan, I'm told. Have you had any inside? I mean, or what would you expect? What possibly could they offer that hasn't been tried already?
Yeah, well, there's nothing solid at all that's going to come through and stop this. You can't just control the market, stop the prices rising. I'd expect to see a bit more detail on their plan to build 10,000 state houses per annum for 10 years. Not going to be able to do it because the builders simply aren't there, but a bit of solidity there.
But it's the other problem you've got, isn't it? You can't turn back the clock. If you try and pull prices back, you and I are going to go, hang on a minute, our $800,000 house is now only worth $600,000. You've cost me $200,000. I hate you.
Exactly. More people are happy about house prices rising than are unhappy. It's just that the happy people, of course, are keeping quiet about it. It's really only a crisis for those people who have not bought already, or, of course, for the homeless at the bottom and people on very, very low incomes. That's where the crisis lies. That's where the policy effort needs to focus.
Just tell me something. John Key yesterday, the Prime Minister, he came out basically telling the Reserve Bank this is what you should be doing. Is a bit against the convention, isn't it? The Reserve Bank's supposed to be independent. They're not supposed to have the politicians telling them what to do.
Hey, look, that's fine. The Reserve Bank's job is to seek advice from a whole range of areas, companies throughout the country, and then they choose whether to act on the advice or not. And so it's not the government saying, do this or we will make you do that. Now, that would be the worrying thing. I've got no problem with the PM's comments.
You've been listening to the Paul Henry Highlights Hour. For the real deal, tune in weekday mornings from 6 a.m. until 9 on TV3, online and right here on Radio Live.